All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here to talk about the Rotary Foundation. You would never know, of course, from my current title and from all the times that I speak on foundation, that it is my passion. I am very passionate about the Rotary Foundation, but in particular, I am very, very passionate about the opportunities and the results that we can have by working together or working in collaboration with the Rotary Foundation. So it is certainly my pleasure to talk to you on it today. I know that in our group, we have a lot of people that are quite familiar with Foundation and its works, and some perhaps are not familiar with it at all. So hopefully each person is going to get something out of the presentation as we move along. So I always like to share the mission of the Rotary Foundation. And the Rotary Foundation Canada has adopted the mission of the Rotary Foundation in Chicago. And I will not read it out to you, but just simply to highlight the caption underneath the picture, which I think really says it all. And that's the fact that the foundation is what helps to transform the gifts that we give to the foundation into projects that are going to change lives, whether we're talking about lives right here in our communities or lives somewhere around the globe for people that we're never going to meet and never going to see. The foundation is 107 years old. Its mission, simply in simple words, is to help you to work on those projects that you are passionate about so that we can continue to do good in the world. We have, of course, our areas of focus. These areas were selected by the trustees of the Rotary International. They are intended to be there to help us build international relationships, to improve lives, and to promote a more peaceful world. I think many of you are quite familiar with the 7 areas of focus. The environment is the most recent addition to the areas of focus. These are not chosen by accident. All of these areas of focus are chosen because they represent the world's greatest areas of need. And I know that we are involved in a lot of different areas of focus in our club. In the Rotary Club of Winnipeg, what are we passionate about? And it's difficult to have interaction at this stage of the game, but I know for a fact that the Rotary Club of Winnipeg is involved in peace building and conflict resolution. We are the organizers or the folks that started World Peace Partners, Peace Days, Rotary Adventures and Human Rights programs that provide education in conflict and peace, conflict resolution and conflict prevention. We know that we're involved in education and literacy. We are, of course, doing things right here on the ground in terms of literacy. There are books that go to our northern communities that Nancy talked about just a few minutes ago. There are backpacks. There are different things to help with basic education and literacy. We form bonds between students in northern communities and students here to provide them with a broader perspective on what education might look like. I know we work on water, sanitation, and hygiene. We certainly are working on water wells in different parts of the world that are not as fortunate as we are with those things. We work on community and economic development. Srini is one of the key organizers of the Hippo Roller Project and helping women to do farming and to provide not only garden and vegetables and food for themselves, but also to be able to then sell it and provide some economic development for them, and maternal and child health, of course, whether we're talking about beds for kids, whether we're talking about different kinds of things that we do around the globe in relation to that. I know that we're involved in so much of the areas of focus that are listed here, and I've probably missed a few. So bear with me. I know that we're involved in a lot of things. So back to what we talked about in the mission, the foundation can and has helped our club to turn our passions for a cause into action and lasting change for communities, whether it's right here or around the globe. And so let's take a look at why we want to deal with the Rotary Foundation. Aside from that, of course, it is one of the organizations that is recognized as a world-class organization. It is active in nearly every country in the globe, and it is serious about stewardship. So when I give to the Rotary Foundation, I am very, very comfortable that those funds are going to be looked after very well, and they will be used in a way that is going to be beneficial to people around the globe, exactly as I intend. The foundation is carefully overseen by our fellow Rotarians, the trustees of the Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation Canada is an associate to the Rotary Foundation, and with oversight from the trustees and the board of the Rotary Foundation Canada, we ensure that the donations that Canadian Rotarians give are invested well and that they are spent wisely so that they will do good in the world. Our members' generosity, of course, has not gone unnoticed either. It is recognized for the 15th consecutive year by Charity Navigator, that is a rater of charities in North America, as a 4-star, which is the top rating that we can get. It's been 15 consecutive years. In Canada, we also have a number of organizations that rate charities, and at the moment, the Rotary Foundation Canada is working on getting accreditation through Imagine Canada. It is a process, so we want to make sure that our Canadian Rotarians have an opportunity to have the Rotary Foundation Canada examined and looked at to make sure we are in fact doing all the things that we need to do for our Canadian Rotarians. The stewardship that's exercised over the funds that are contributed by Rotarians also fosters and gives us an opportunity to build strong partnerships. So if you think about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the support that we receive from Bill and Melinda Gates in relation to our polio contributions, the Government of Canada that has just once again provided a commitment to provide $151 million towards polio eradication. The World Health Organization and a number of other organizations, they are working with us because they recognize that the stewardship over the funds that we are provided or being provided is very, very strong. So I'm very proud to contribute. I make it my charity of choice just simply because of the stewardship that's exercised here. How it works with the Rotary Foundation is donations can, of course, go to a number of different places, but any donation that is made to the annual fund program, the annual fund share program, we send off to Rotary Foundation. It is sent back to us 100% 3 years after it has been sent to provide us with the opportunity to do both district projects, help us to provide us with some grant funding, to assist with the district projects, and also to help us with global projects that we're very much involved in at our club level. The reason for the 3-year period in terms of why we have the money for 3 years, it helps to provide an opportunity for the foundation to earn some interest on those dollars. The interest that is then generated on the investment is used to defray some of the costs for staffing, for buildings, for print, for all sorts of different things. And so what that does is it allows for more of your actual dollar to be used in projects instead of paying for those kinds of things. And as I said, it all comes back. So a portion of it 3 years later comes back to allow us to do district grants, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And the rest of it comes back to allow us to work on global grants or global projects, international projects. What has happened with donations, and this is again just to the annual programs fund over the course of the last year, roughly 366 million US dollars were donated, or actually revenue for Rotary International. So that includes both donations and interest earnings. And close to 300 million of those donations were put back to work. And so the various places that they're put back to work, of course, the Polio Plus program, which is our signature project, and one that we're wanting to work through to eradicate polio all around the globe. We had $72 million worth, US dollars, this is all the US dollars, put into global or international projects. There were 1,287 global grants that were provided last year. $30 million for district grants. And so some of that money comes back to us in terms of our ability to do local projects. Disaster response is still quite strong. There are lots of disasters. So there's a good portion of the disaster response funds that were used in the Ukraine in the past few years, but there are other disasters that are being actually now supported by the disaster response grants. And of course, we have some programs of scale that are being funded as well. Program of scale is anything that's $2 million or more. We are on round 2. So the first program of scale that was put together was malaria vaccination treatment in Zambia, which was quite successful. And back to the partnerships. We are an organization that is recognized as one that will manage the funds appropriately. So in addition to the $2 million that we used in the treatment of malaria in Zambia, we actually had a total of $6 million to work with. $2 million were provided by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and another $2 million from World Vision USA. And this partnership, again, is because of the reputation that we have to be able to manage it. There's a new program of scale that's been accepted, and it's going to be in Egypt, and it is to end cervical cancer and raise awareness and improve women's access to preventative care in these situations. And so it continues based on the success of the first one. I can see that we're going to be looking at a lot more of these programs of scale because they have such significant impact. So let's talk a little bit more about district grants again. As I mentioned earlier, $30 million has been returned last year in the 23-24 Rotary year to support local community projects. There are lots of different projects that can be undertaken there, whether you're talking about a scholarship supporting a student to go to a leadership camp, whether you're talking about a local project of some sort working with within your community. Those funds are available, and there is grant funding available to support your district projects. And in addition to that, of course, there are global grants or international projects that were eligible for some of the funding, but that comes out of a different pot, not the district grant pot. This 30 million is worldwide. So I wish I could say that 30 million came back to our district 5550. Unfortunately not. We are close to $30,000 though in Canadian dollars in our district that we were able to then give to clubs to be able to work on programs over the course of the last year. So there will be another pot of money that will be coming in the next 6 months or so. By July 1st, we send in the application. So once again, we'll have an opportunity to do some district projects. And I think, but none of this can happen without our support. So that's important to keep in mind. Our record as a club in terms of giving over the course of the last 5 years is under annual fund contributions. You will see that we range somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 US per year. In order to benefit or be able to participate in the grant process, we have to be at about a $50 per capita contribution rate. And so what that means, I just have to do quick math because it's a part I didn't do, is we are now based on membership last year at the beginning of the year was 56. So for 56 members, we have to provide $50 US per person so that we can actually continue to participate in the grant process. We reach that goal every year. I encourage each and every person to take a look at where we are, and we will need to be. Nancy, can you do the math for me quickly? Because I can't just sort of think of it off the top of my head. I know finance and I can't get there. So you can see actually right here you can see the per capita contribution. We're currently at $17 per person, and we need to be at 50. You can also see that in previous years, every year, we have surpassed the $50 requirement, which has given us the opportunity to continue to participate in the grant process.
If we're 56 members and we have to have $5,000 US, that's $90 per person.
We need to be $50 per capita per person, $50 per person.
Okay.
So that's just what's the total amount we need to reach.
So that's only 2,800.
Okay, and we're at 943. So I encourage everyone to take a look now to see whether they need a tax receipt for the year 2024, and then contributions by December 31st will hopefully get us there. Sorry, my dog is getting a little excited over here. And March 15th is actually our deadline. So March 15th, 2025 is our deadline for achieving that $50 per capita in order to make sure that we can continue to participate in the grant process. So that's where we're at. What have we done with all the stuff, with money we get, with money we raise? Of course, there are a number of projects that we've been involved in. What's on the slide? Some of these things have received grant funding, some have not. However, it still contributes to our impact as a Rotary Club in the city of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba and around the globe. And so I know that we have sent 2 students this year, 3 students last year. So every year we are sending students for a leadership award camp. And we have, of course, participated in Beds for Children. Oak Table is support to the homeless community. That is one of the ones that did receive grant funding. All of our international projects have received grant funding. And just a quick calculation of what we have. So if I look at the last 2 years, our club has contributed just over $8,000 US. However, in support for 2 global grant or international projects, and the district grant funding that we have received, we have gotten back over $90,000 in funding. So I'm a former financial planner before my retirement, and I can tell you that if I invested $8,000 and was able to get $90,000 back in 2 years, I would say that's a fantastic rate of return. So a significant impact on the ground, but also a significant impact for the contributions that we have made to the Rotary Foundation. In addition to that, we have an economic impact that we never talk about. And so I've done a very, very rough calculation of what the global economic impact of the Rotary Club of Winnipeg is. And please take these numbers with a grain of salt, because I don't have all the details, but just sort of looking at our impact. And so I looked at the number of volunteer hours, and I'm probably grossly underestimating the number of hours. I know some of us do 10, 15, 20 hours a week of volunteer time. Some of us do maybe a little bit less, but most of us do at least 2 to 3 hours per week of volunteer time for the Rotary, for Rotary just in general. And so looking at just again, a rough estimate of $25 per hour, 10,000 hours over the course of the last year would net us a $250,000 impact on our communities. We have fundraised, and again, I'm guessing in terms of how much, what is the dollar impact of the warm clothing? What is the dollar impact of the hockey equipment and skates? What is the dollar value of all the stuff, the books, all those things that are being sent to the communities? What is the fundraising that we have actually put forward for the global or the international projects that we're involved in? And again, just looking at the members of our own club. Our donations, of course, are there. Our contributions to the Polio Plus program, what we've actually spent on district projects, and I'm talking about all of those, the northern communities, all the different areas that we impact, the actual impact of international projects, and what they represent. And of course, disaster response that we've been involved in, which really is immeasurable. But just a very brief overview of what our club by itself is doing economically in a year. It's about $907,000. That's a phenomenal number. It's probably understated. I think we have a much more significant impact than that, but that by itself is pretty significant as well. And looking at it on a larger scale, if I look at Rotary just in general around the globe, the global economic value of Rotary, I'm not going to go through each and every line, but if you look at the very last line, before Rotarians make a difference, the economic impact annually for Rotary around the globe is somewhere between 3.5 and $5 billion. And so if you think about whether do we need Rotary? Do we need Rotarians? Do we need the foundation? Do we need all of these things? Is the world a better place with it or without it? I think that there's no question when I look at these numbers. And again, I know that these are understated. We don't have accurate numbers on all of these things, but these are the kinds of things that will help us to form better and bigger partnerships. Because if we can show these numbers, and that's what funders are asking for, show me what you're doing, show me your impact, and show me what you can do. I think these are the numbers that we need to focus on. And for our club, we have to start to measure a whole lot more so that we too can approach other organizations to support us in our projects and to help us and continue to work on improving our communities, whether it's locally or internationally. So all of this, of course, is not possible without the support of Rotarians like you who are here, like the Rotarians that are not here and not present at this meeting. They are strong supporters. I want to highlight donors who are not able to give necessarily to the same degree as some other donors, but those who give between $25 and $50 contribute more than $5.1 million annually. So it doesn't take a lot to make a big difference. And we only have about 34% of our Rotarians who donate to the annual programs fund. So I think we have a lot of room to work on some of those donations. It doesn't take a lot to make a difference in the world. A gift of any size can have a huge impact. You know, a $50 water filter, $500 for some programming for kids to stop bullying, some dollars for medical equipment. It could be as little as $200. And so it doesn't take a lot to actually do a lot in the world. And no matter how we choose to give, I think our gift will help Rotary members or you to keep doing good in the world. So lots of different levels of donors in the Rotary Foundation. Sustaining member is what we're aiming for, of course, with everyone. Rotary Foundation sustaining member is someone who gives $100 US or more to the annual programs fund every year. And I know that we have a number of them in our club, and we continue to have people who continue to fund at this level. But go back to my previous slide. If this is not something that you are able to do, then certainly looking at something less. Everything makes a difference. And then, of course, recognition is provided to those who either one-time contribution or cumulatively reach contributions of $1,000 US. And they become then, of course, recognized as a Paul Harris Fellow. Paul Harris is the founder of Rotary. And so in his honor, you become a Paul Harris Fellow when you reach a certain recognition point or a certain point, and that would be $1,000 US. And this can be a combination of a number of different things. It can be a combination of dollars and points. Points are given to a Rotarian who has contributed to the foundation. So if you contribute $1,000 US to the foundation, you receive 1,000 points that you can then give to someone else to make them a Paul Harris Fellow. And you would do that in a situation where you might want to recognize someone for the good work that they've done. I will be doing that for some of my grandchildren because they are strong supporters of Rotary. They come and help every time there's a project going on. They are providing a lot of work, hands-on things that they help to make sure that the project is going to go well. And so I'm going to recognize them and make them a Paul Harris Fellow. And I can do that simply by giving them 1,000 recognition points. And so the honor of recognizing them for the support that they give speaks volumes, I think, for people, and it's a great way to use it. So again, another reason why we want to give, because that gives us a little bit more opportunity to recognize other people who are perhaps doing good as well. And then, of course, Paul Harris Society is folks that are able to commit to giving $1,000 more each year. And in fact, in our club, we do have one person who is a Paul Harris Society member and a second person who is eligible, but has chosen not to, at this point, become one. But we do have two people who are, in fact, eligible for the Paul Harris Society area. Lots of different ways to give. My preference always is to go with Rotary Direct. Rotary Direct is a way that you can sign in and provide your information, whether it's your bank account or a credit card, and then your payment comes off automatically. My payment comes automatically every month. It's just one way for me to make sure I don't forget. It's something that, as I mentioned before, I am very, very passionate about. And so I make sure that it actually is something that happens every month. It's easy. You can forget about it. You can set up your bank account. You can set it up for as little as $15 per month. Canadian dollars, it's $10 US. So I always just say 15 because it's just easier that way. You can make the payment in Canadian dollars or US dollars. Your tax receipt, if you make a US dollar payment of $10 every month, your tax receipt will come in the Canadian equivalent of that donation. So if your contribution is $100 and the exchange rate is 39, you will get a tax receipt for 130, whatever that happens to be in that particular month. And so Rotary Direct, as I said, is my preferred method. You can certainly donate online, and I have talked a number of people through the online donation process. There's a check that can go direct. Often I get a number of checks from people and I mail them all together to the Rotary Foundation and it's processed. Of course, there's lots of different ways. You can, there's something called corporate matching. And I know when I was working, my company actually provided a match for a certain limit of my contribution to the Rotary Foundation. So if you're working and you work with a company that does provide that, approach them, find out if they're willing to support. So just as a recap, Rotary Direct is a good way to do it. And that kind of brings me to the end of my presentation at this point. I want to leave with a quick video just to show appreciation to all of those that are already involved in the Rotary Foundation and are supporting it. So thank you for that, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you today. So let's see if we can.
In a world full of challenges, you make solutions possible. Because of you, last year, we funded over 1,090 global grants, 470 district grants, and 310 disaster response grants. Together, we are providing clean water and growing local economies, supporting education, and promoting peace, supporting mothers and their children, providing aid to the communities affected by disasters, and preventing diseases like polio. Last year, donors like you contributed more than $427 million to the Rotary Foundation. Because of you, together, we can do even more good. Thank you for your dedication to strengthening communities around the world. The Rotary Foundation.